WIIFTBP.
WIIFTBP. Media just for you and me. WIIFTBP. Media's just for you and me.
All right, well, Angela, Food. As you know, this is I Do, I Did, I Don't, the Center for the Black People Media. Start our way.
Nay.
Not under a friendship of being in love, first being friends, and then being in love, or growing in love. We came together we're trying to survive, we're two kids trying to survive. Okay, we're going to survive together, because if you're handling this end of the survival and I'm handling this end here, that you've accepted this is what it's been, and now you've made the decision. And he wasn't there, he wasn't even seeing that you were done. Here's what it was. Just like I ignored on the front end that he didn't love me like that, he was so disconnected from me by the point when I decided to leave that he didn't see the writing on the wall. Wow. Yes, didn't see it. But he didn't know that one because he never took the time to meet her. And that's key, I think, in having a plan. If you are going to, whether you're deciding together that this isn't going to work any longer and we're splitting, and having a plan on how you're going to move forward is pretty key. You knew at this point I had to create your own plan, and you were moving forward with that. In my case, I didn't have a plan. Things happened pretty abruptly, and I was creating a plan on the fly along the way. I don't recommend that. You forgive yourself. You forgive you. Do the work of forgiving yourself that you may be able to actually forgive others.
I miss your kiss. Oh, your kisses one of a kind. It feels so nice. Girl, you do it right. I miss you. Oh, girl, you don't go too fast. Take your time.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What's in for the Black People Media audience? This is Tasha Napper here. Tasha Napper here with I Do, I Did, I Don't on What's in It for the Black People Media. I am here and excited today to be with my bestie, the bestest in the entire world. Her name is Artavia B. Berry. She is a social entrepreneur, but more important than that, she is my bestie. And, we talk about sisterhood and sisters and living life together, growing up. We have been friends since about just before 7th grade.
Yep.
Which, how old are you in 7th grade? Maybe 11, 12, somewhere in there.
10, 12, somewhere around in there.
Yes. So I am so excited for her on this because we are just going to chat. We're just going to talk about it. We are both living life on the other side of divorce and doing it damn well, I might add. And so we are here to just talk about kind of some of the lessons that we've learned, what our experiences have been, and to encourage those of you who are either walking through the process, might be thinking about the process, or in the process. So I want you to I want you to share, and I want you to follow this both that I don't the page Facebook and for the Black People Media, because not only do you get the great content being presented on I Do, I Did, I Don't, you also get all of the other fantastic content that's out there on What's in It for the Black People Media. And there is some really, really good stuff. So I want you to follow, and you will get notifications about the other shows that come on throughout the week. There's a whole wonderful lineup. So what I'm going to do first, so I can get this shared, is I would like for you to introduce yourself. Just tell the audience what you'd like them to know about you.
Oh, man. First of all, this is like living the dream, right? Can you believe? Two girls from the west side of Chicago, 13th and Independent, stand up, represent, growing up. I just feel so blessed to be here with you today.
Oh,
Seriously blessed. So my name is Artavia Berry, and what do y'all want to know about me? I'm a preacher. I'll start there. I was ordained when I was 15, 16 years old. I've been at it for a while now, and I've had a very interesting life journey, to say the least. And I've spent most of my life serving people, either through the church or through nonprofit organizations, volunteerism. And in the past maybe 7 to 10 years, I've started to do more in terms of social entrepreneur work. So starting enterprises that, have opportunity to help change society in the most positive of ways. So started a company called Pocket Ref to move spirituality into a more one-on-one space between the person and the God they want to get to know and serve. And most recent project is Black Moji, which started out as a passion project to highlight Black culture, Black people in the emoji space, and has really taken off and is offering a lot of, elevation of Black history and an opportunity to really elevate who we are as a people in the most positive of ways. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. So when I posted about her being on the show, I said that really the title is too big for words. And you see what I mean now. She does so much, and really just has a heart of service and a bleeding heart, I would say. I say that about her all the time, but she is one of the people that I can point to that truly works to serve her community, works to serve the people within her circle, and works to serve the larger humanity. So this dress that I'm wearing, for example, came from Mali. She helped build a school in Mali and brought this dress back for her bestie. This is one of the dresses.
Amazing.
So.
Isn't she beautiful, y'all? Isn't she gorgeous?
So I had to wear it today since she's going to be on the show. So, so that commercial that you hear for Black Moji, this is the founder of Black Moji. So for those of you who have heard it, who know it, you'll probably hear the commercial ad again at the break. But this is Artavia, who is one of the founders of the app, and had, like, as she said, little Black girl from the West Side, has created the whole thing from an idea, which is absolutely amazing. And so when we talk about encouraging people and thinking about what life looks like on the other side, a lot of opportunity becomes presented in divorce that either we felt sort of pinned up, or like we couldn't really take advantage of it or move forward with it. And we think differently, just all sorts of, if you have the right frame of mind and frame of reference, you will see the opportunity in divorce.
Yeah, I think, quite unfortunately, divorce has been framed historically as the end, right? And so I think, in times past, maybe when society was a little bit differently, it could have felt like the end if being married was your only way to have economic security or housing or to care for yourself or your children. But the world has changed, right? So divorce is not the end. It's nowhere near the end. It's a transition point. And for those who are married, certainly you don't want to, you're not looking towards getting a divorce. But if you find yourself in that space, you got to know it's not the end for us.
Yes.
It's a transition. It's not a comfortable transition, but most transitions are uncomfortable.
That's true. Even when they're good ones, they are uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. And so there's opportunity for growth. There's opportunity to challenge yourself. It's an opportunity for you to look back and reflect and decide who do you want to be differently in the world. Because you definitely take on a different role, once you go through that process. So it's not the end. It's a transition. And the other side can be exactly whatever it is you decide to make it.
That's right. That's
So-
right. Your past does not get to determine your future or your reality. And so it's about what you decide to do and how you decide to move forward. So been divorced now. We have both been friends through both of these divorces.
Yes.
And there was some I don't know, it's just been interesting, right?
Did you say interesting?
It's been interesting.
Good.
I don't even know what other word to use
Y'all,
for
it's
this.
been wild.
Yes,
It's
yes,
been
it has.
wild.
It has been
Oh,
a wild journey, and I'm just, I look back. First of all, I'm so grateful that I had divorce and divorce, and that our relationship has maintained through that, and grown even stronger over all these years. But I look back and I think, I want you to tell me the same thing. So if I look at you and I look at your relationship, you know how your friends always see stuff from the outside, but they don't really tell you that all the time because in some cases they can't say it or they're trying to be supportive or whatever. But I look at you and I think, okay, that wasn't working for a long time. And I see it. And I think you could see it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe you just weren't ready to see it and ready to truly you acknowledge that it wasn't working, but I don't think you're ready to make the decision like, okay, this needs to be done.
Yeah. It took me years to finally get a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in the church, I had this tradition set in my mind.
Yeah.
Right. I got married with the intention of never getting divorced. This will be till death do us part.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that to be natural death, but we were headed towards killing each other. So we had to figure out stop. But yeah, we got married, and I'm a type of person where I can stick through tough times.
Yeah.
I can go through the valleys of life and stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we began to hit tough times, I thought, it's just a rough patch.
Yeah.
And we'll get through it. We'll manage through it. We'll grow together. We'll evolve together. And about, several years into this fairy tale thinking that I had, I'd had a counselor for the entire time. And I definitely want to encourage our listeners to get counseling.
Yes.
Get counseling.
Yes.
Get counseling. Counselors are a resource, whether you're single, married, divorced. A good counselor can help you process the things that you're going through in life. They can help you get clarity, and they are in your real life. So you can dump it all there, and it's not going to show up at family dinner.
Exactly.
It ain't gonna show up on Sunday dinner at auntie house, granny house.
Yes.
It just stays in that room.
Right.
And so it's a very powerful resource for me. And in many ways, it kept me in the marriage longer than I probably would have been there if things weren't going well. But after many years with the same counselor, she finally turned to me and said, you're going to have to get a divorce, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is really unusual for a counselor to really just come out and say that, because typically they're walking you through what's happening to help you realize it on your own. So it kind of says to me that she was like, all right, I'm just going to say this because you won't.
Yeah. She was very helpful in pointing out to me that you've been here for years. He's been coming off and on for years. He's not evolving. Mm-hmm. He's not changing. He's unable to really even acknowledge that a change needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And she told me at that point, she said, listen, I don't want to keep having you come here. And she said to me, I've never, ever said to someone, you need to just go ahead and move on with your life.
Wow.
And so this was an inflection point for her as a seasoned counselor. She was not a new counselor. She'd been counseling couples for 25 years at that point, so she had a lot of experience. And she said sometimes you have to accept when the other person is not ready to do the work to change. And she said very point blank to me, you can choose to stay, and it's going to be another 20, 30 years of what you've been experiencing the past decade, or you can choose yourself.
Choose yourself.
Yep. And I cried. This was not a pleasant experience for me. And I didn't divorce him right away. I probably stayed another 5 years after that.
Yeah.
Thinking, God, you're able. God, you're able. And I'm just going to take this moment to sneak right on into the church, right?
Okay, let's go there.
Because then the church will tell you you can't get a divorce, right? It's against scripture to get a divorce. And then I'm a minister and I'm co-leading the church. How's it going to look? So then there's all this societal pressure to stay in a position to not serving you. And a lot of the advice I was getting from other ministers was, stay, just deal with it, suck it up. Things will eventually get better. And I'm like, but you're not doing any work to get better. So how's it going to get better?
And that kills me because you've been at this for all this time and it's not getting better. And it feels like what the church wants to tell you is you just have to suffer. You have to suffer for the rest of your life, whether that person decides to engage differently for the benefit of the marriage. You just have to suffer.
Right.
And that's ridiculous to me.
It is. It's quite unfortunate that that unhealthy tradition has continued to be passed down. And, I used to be a part of that unhealthy tradition. I had to really, this led me to start to do a lot of deep research on marriage, the covenant that's established between God and his people, the covenant that marriage is supposed to represent.
Yeah.
And so in my own deep study, I came across a scripture in Jeremiah that said that God himself divorced Israel because of her adulteries and because of her covenant breaking.
And I want to point this out. Adulteries, plural.
Yes, plural. And so oftentimes we think, oh, well, if they didn't sleep with somebody, you don't even have cause. And the thing I want to say to the audience is if you're in a situation where you're in an unhealthy marriage, even if your spouse has not stepped out physically, understand that the covenant has more than the sexual covenant.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
it does.
You shattered the covenant in every possible way except that you expect me to stay when even God himself is a divorced being.
Well, that's a word right there when you think about that, because essentially what God said was, you have been unfaithful. You have been unfaithful to me. What? I'm done.
It's called accountability.
Yes.
It's called accountability. And unfortunately, the church has evolved in a way where leadership has no real understanding of what it means to be accountable.
Yes. Oh, Angie Mims and I talked about that on one of my shows, where we continued the discussion that was happening from Church Chicago, which is the show right before mine. Yeah. And they don't. And then because they don't know how to advise you to build accountability into the marriage in order for it to be successful.
That's right.
It's just up. The expectation that women suck it up even more than men, because
there's this impolite word called patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're supposed to follow your pastor blindly into whatever it is he's doing, saying, without questioning, without holding up the scriptures, without saying, hey, there's a standard that God has established. Brother, you may be the bishop, pastor, church, apostle, whatever you wanted to call it. That means you're the lead armor bearer for this standard.
Okay.
You're the lead standard bearer. That doesn't mean you get an exemption.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, because we exempt our leadership when they're clearly in the wrong, that mentality has now passed into marriages where that's your husband, follow him anyway, continue anyway.
It's that other ugly word, submission, which is supposed to kind of mean you're supposed to do any and everything at the will of this man, because God has said that we're supposed to submit to our husband.
See, this where Pastor Bridget or Minister Artavia is going to say, pull out the Greek and Hebrew concordance. That's not what submission means.
Okay, let's talk about what submission means.
When you dissect that word, see, that's what it means to us today. But understand, language changes over time.
Yes, it does.
If we travel back 2,000 years and say, hey, can you Google that for me? Right? They're
what would Google say?
It's a Google.
Right.
And so we know what it means, but 2,000 years ago, they have no idea what that means. Right? So fast forward 2,000 years, the word submit to us means to bow down, but when you unpack that word, the word means to voluntarily cooperate with each other.
It does say submit to one another.
To one another. Voluntarily cooperate with each other.
Yes.
Not bow down and follow blindly no matter what this person says or does.
Right. Even when it's hurting you, because many times that's what we see in relationships is that something is happening that is causing harm to the other person, but there is still this thought that you're supposed to submit to that and endure that for the benefit of the marriage staying together.
Listen, if you're doing something crazy to me, if you bring a bat in here and start hitting me with it, you think I'm going to voluntarily cooperate with you to continue to hit me with this bat?
Exactly.
It's preposterous. And so this misinterpretation of scripture has led us into bondage. It's led us into a bondage when the very purpose of Jesus coming to the earth was to release us from the bondage.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we walk ourselves back into the trick bag.
Yes, yes. And so you stayed there for a minute, finally got to the point where you said, all right, and everybody gets there in their own time. So for me personally, I am not at all judgmental about how people walk through their realization or their process to determine at the end whether they should stay or go. Everybody, it's their own process, their own marriage. I don't have anything to say, but I will be there to support you as you walk through whatever that decision process is. So for you, it took a while, and you got there and decided, all right, I think this has to end.
Yeah.
And when you made that decision and got to that realization, this has to end.
Yeah.
Did you feel? What did you feel? Like, was there the sense of relief? Was there the sense of sadness? Was there the sense of loss?
All the trauma of the relationship, I was grieving so deeply. Mm-hmm. It broke my heart. Yeah. Truly. Yeah. And I know some people, modern day, it's like, oh, divorce parties are free. It wasn't like that for me. I grieved the loss of my first love. It was my first period ever in life. I saved myself into marriage. Mm-hmm. So, I had my children with him. We were building this life together. So it was a very hard transition for me, in spite of all that going on. And I took the time. I did not rush myself through that process. I allowed myself to grieve. Mm-hmm. I allowed myself to mourn, and it's a weird type of mourning because the person is still alive. Right. Right. It's not sort of like if someone passes on from this life to the next where they're gone. Uh-huh. Right. But the relationship has ceased to exist. Right. It has passed on. But yet I still got to communicate and look at, we're raising children together. We got to, unpack our assets, which takes years sometimes. So no, I wasn't one of these people that was sort of super happy at getting a divorce. I was very sad. It broke my heart. It took me years to process the loss. Mm-hmm. And, but you can process it. Some people, they come out differently. For me, it was a very long process. And God will heal you. Yes. And yes, He will. In that process, and one of the things, the third thing I really want to bring out is that if you allow yourself to sit in the difficulty, sit in the pain, it is the pain that can produce that transformation that you need to become who God is calling you to be after the divorce is done. Yes. So don't short circuit the pain because you just want to get through it. That's right. And sometimes you may be okay with it, but the people around you just want you to get through it, in part because they love you and they don't want to keep seeing you suffer. But also, it's uncomfortable for them as well. Yeah. And so we have to sit with it. You have to. Because the growth happens with pain. You go to the gym, your muscles are going to hurt, but you're getting stronger you're working out. And so none of that comes easily, and it all involves some level of discomfort or pain or work, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it because, again, in that process, it's easy when you're going through a divorce to say the other person did A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And all of that may be true, right? I'm not going to discount that. It may be true. Yes. But it takes two. So who were you that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Who were you in that relationship? And when you're going through that type of pain, if you're honest with yourself and you're willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, let's unpack you. He's gone now.
Right.
Right? So no more boo-hooing about who shot Johnny when the marriage was going on.
Uh-huh.
Now you got to say, okay, Artavia, who are you in this situation?
Right. Especially if you aspire to have another relationship, because you certainly don't want to repeat the same stuff over again.
That's right. And I think far too often, I still do a ton of counseling with folks. Unfortunately, it's real easy to say what the other person's shortcomings were, what they didn't do well, or where they could have grown. But when it comes down to, now you got to look at yourself, and every single question you asked about your mate, now ask them about yourself and answer honestly. This is where God can begin to really kind of break our own patterns of negative behavior down and help us to really see those things. And if you can own it, own it. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It means that you also had growing to do. And if you're going to get to the next level, the way that stuff, that's a process for some.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm turning the tables now and say, all right, this is what I saw from you. Tell me what you saw on the other side of what you saw looking into my marriage.
Yeah, man, listen. Can we back up from the marriage just a minute?
Yes.
Let's back up.
Yes.
Because I want to talk about what we see for each other before we even say I do.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So before, like when the dating is going on,
Mm-hmm.
now that all the dust has settled, I can see it, right? This dude was good enough.
Well,
he was never good enough for you, okay?
And likewise, that's the exact same thought that I had.
Been saying that 20.
Okay, so y'all, if it's your girl, if it's your boy, and you care about them, you got to find a way to tell them
the truth
in some way and help them see it. And I know that that's not a great thing to say. Like, she would never have said that while I was in the relationship, right? But you have to help people see what they're not seeing, because we have blind spots. And I'm telling you, we are in an altered state of mind when we are dating, because we're trying to show people the best of us. We want this to work. We're ignoring the signs, all that stuff.
And then, your mind is further clouded because you're in love and you're emotional. But I'm going to tell you something. Just like Jesus had his closest 3 in his circle, those 3 watched his blind spot. And I don't think you should have everybody in your business.
Yes.
But you got to have 1 or 2 really good friends.
Yes.
Who can look you in the eye and tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And say, sis, I'm watching your blind spot. You can turn around as much as you want. You can't see your back.
Yes.
All right? But I can go around there and look at your back. And you got to have people who are willing to deliver you hard truth in love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't mature enough to do it at 20.
Yes.
But at this point on this stage, I can say I knew back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to say to my friend who's completely in love that this guy, he can't. God had something super unique and special inside of you. And you needed someone who could appreciate that, who could see that, and who would not be intimidated by that. Right.
But would help foster that and bring that forward to the world, because the benefit would have been for both of us. So
absolutely. Because he was gifted too now. But,
absolutely.
But you got to be willing to take care of each other.
Right.
And it can't be, I'm feeling insecure because your gift looks like X.
Right. Or because you got more of the spotlight right now than I have. And if we're building something together,
right?
Exactly.
Doesn't matter which one of us is there at the moment. We can support each other.
Right.
Mike and Scotty had to figure out how to elevate each other. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't see that in him when we were young, but I had no clue how to say it. And separately from that, okay, can we talk about mama boy syndrome for a minute?
Yes. Come on, let's talk about
mama boy syndrome.
Because we always, what, I think both of us looked at, all right, this person has a great relationship with their mother. And so that means that they may treat me well.
Yep. Because that's what we taught, right? If he treats his mom well, he's going to treat you. Wait a minute. His sister out there, y'all listening straight up.
I hope so.
Here, well. If a man has to stay attached to the nucleus of his mother in that situation, he's not going to be able to build a nucleus with you.
Amen. Amen. And so let's talk about what that looks like, right? So if you are constantly seeking the approval of mom as a man versus the approval of wife, if it's more important what mom thinks versus what the wife thinks, if mom's needs supersede what the wife or the family needs, we have a problem.
It's a huge problem. And I have tremendous love and respect for my elders, but everybody has a swim lane.
Yes.
And mom's swim lane can't be in my house.
Exactly.
And we can't pay mom rent if we can't pay our rent.
Man,
I'm sorry, y'all. It's out of order. If you can't go put groceries in mom's house when you have to grocery shop for your own children, and your own children don't have school supplies, and that doesn't mean we don't lean in to help mom.
exactly.
Mom has a disability.
Right.
So it's not about not wanting to share. I believe in sharing, but I also believe in prioritizing.
Exactly.
And when I got married, I made him number one. I made my kids number one.
Yes,
And
without
then
a doubt. Without a doubt. You can see the both of us down that. What the nucleus. And I won't say we see that happening from our spouses.
We did not see that at any point in our marriages. And so when I look, so now fast forward, right? So we sort of have this, man, is this man, is he a good match for you? Number one. Number two, there's a boundary issue between him and mom. And will he be able to separate enough to create a nucleus? And so when I looked into your marriage, those were the things that I was witnessing. I witnessed my friend having to be second. And that didn't make me happy. I witnessed my friend following a man who was trying really hard to lead, but had very, very much had a lot of difficulty looking at himself and being truthful. I didn't see the level of honesty reciprocated.
Yeah.
You were real honest.
I was very
real honest.
It's a value for me. And so I am a very honest person. I think sometimes to a fault. But it's important that I have the same thing, get the same thing back. And so I think one of the things that I've learned is if you see a person tell little white lies, they're going to tell bigger lies. And you can't think they're going to do it to some and not do it to you. No, it's going to happen.
If he lying to me, we lying to you too.
Exactly.
Because it's a pattern of behavior.
Right.
It's no longer a choice. It's ingrained. Right. And so you see these patterns playing out.
Yes, that one. And if they're irresponsible with money in other arenas, they're going to be irresponsible with money in your house as well.
Absolutely.
You can't think, we were talking about this before we started the show, cognitive dissonance. You cannot think that this is going to be happens over here and somehow not apply the same over here. No, it does. It does. And we may not want to believe it. We may not want to see it.
Ourselves. He'll never do it with me because I'm the wife. He'll do it with everybody else. No, it's a pattern of behavior, sweetheart. And that may be difficult for you to believe and accept, but it's the truth. You can't have two different people living in the same body. Right? So that pattern of behavior exists. It is what it is. It's a matter of time before you catch him doing it to you.
Exactly.
That's the difference there.
So, go ahead. You were going to.
Well, and I was going to throw in also the other thing, the third thing that I'll share is when you have close friends and they get married, there is going to be some separation. But for those people who are in your inner circle, watch to see if there's isolation happening.
Yes. Because separation and isolation are two very different things.
They're very, very different things. We don't understand that when we're young. That was the third thing that I had a hard time articulating about my best friend. I understood the separation. You got to raise your children. You're building a nucleus. But I often felt that you were isolated from the people who loved you the most.
Right.
You were well integrated into his world, but he wasn't integrated into your world.
Very true.
And I tried to create a bond over decades.
Not just you. You tried, other family members tried, and it was clear that it was more like, we're going to keep you at arm's length.
Yeah.
And I think it was very deliberate in order to continue kind of the dysfunction that was happening.
Probably
But
so.
I'm
Probably
so glad that we made it through that despite.
Indeed.
Yes, and then we still maintained the bond because it certainly wasn't fostered. It wasn't encouraged. I'll say it that way.
Very true. Very true. But God has a way of placing people in your life. See, we met in the playground.
Yes.
And we've been bonded ever since.
Y'all, I mean, when we met each other, it was like we knew that we were supposed to be together. We were soul sisters. It clicked, and we've been together ever since as friends.
That's
and
right.
there's some people in your life that are like that. We know God put us together to be sisters through this life.
Absolutely.
And I'm so grateful to God for giving me you and for the benefit of you. I tell everybody that you really, truly taught me how to be a good friend.
You've done the same. You've done the
Oh.
same. And you're the sister I never had.
Yes.
God said, I
Awesome.
got a sister for you. Just relax.
And then the thing is, not only are you my sister, but you're my sister's sister, right? So the younger ones will call you like, okay,
Listen.
big sis. You're like, hey, little sis. That's what I'm
right.
saying.
They're my babies. They're
Yes.
my babies. But that's what it means. Again, we don't have to necessarily not have separation, but the integration into each other's world.
Right.
Right. So there is no me loving you without loving me and Faith and Maine and Sam.
Yes, exactly.
How? How does that happen?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It's just like the godchildren. Okay, if you become a godparent to one, and then three more come along, you can't
Them
not
all
be
my
godparent to the other three.
God, they all my babies. Y'all, listen, we made a pact when we were 12 that we were going to have kids and that we were going to be each other's godmoms for our children. And we thought, okay, maybe we'll get one. And then I had two. So I'm like, okay, maybe she'll do two. I had three, y'all.
Yes, yes. And they love you
They're
so
my
much.
babies.
Yes. So we are just talking. We haven't even taken a break. I'm not even going to take a break at this point because we don't have too much time left. But I will stop to just identify this as I do, I did, I don't with Tasha Napper here. And I am talking with my bestie, Artavia B. Berry, who is just this amazing woman. And we are talking about divorce. We are here on Listening for the Black People Media. So again, like, share, follow, especially if you just heard some information that you think is good for others to hear, that they could benefit from. Please share the broadcast with them. The link will be there for you to share afterwards. It's so important and so needed that people have the resources that they need as they're walking through divorce. And sometimes it's hearing it from someone else. Sometimes it's seeing someone come through it and actually be thriving afterwards. Sometimes it's just the acknowledgement that I'm not by myself.
Word.
I'm not by myself. I'm not the only person that has these thoughts or had these experiences. So, talking about boys and some of the stuff we experience, and I'm sure for the guys, to be fair, y'all probably have some experiences with daddy's girls, but we're not. That wasn't us. We didn't have our dads really in the picture to even be daddy's girls, but we certainly know a little bit about mama's boys. So, you know what? I'm thinking back to, if we're talking about this other thing that I saw for you in the relationship was this sense that you were doing it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to reflect on that at some point in my own relationship. And so I remember saying that to you at some point, but you're doing it by yourself anyway. Yeah. And those words came back to me later. Yeah. Say, okay, well, it seems like there's a partnership. There should be a partnership. I want to believe there's a partnership. But in many ways, this feels like I'm doing it by myself.
Yeah. That's real talk. And what really highlights that is when you do separate and then you're like, oh my God, I finally got help.
Yes.
Because now your mate is forced to share 50% responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh my God, I have been doing this by myself.
Yes.
I have been doing it by myself financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And you don't realize it when you're in it because it's like we're all here together.
Right.
But just being in the space doesn't mean you're present and doing your fair share.
Exactly.
And that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to recognize when you're in it, and when you're a person that is either afraid to get a divorce, or you have whatever reason why you don't want to get a divorce. You may be saying, "Oh, how am I gonna, raise these kids, or will I make enough money on my own for X, or what am I gonna do for child care?" Or, you just begin to list out all the things, and it's not that the person is contributing zero, but the little bit that they are contributing, you overweight it.
Yes. Yep.
You give it way too much weight. And so by the time you get a divorce and now they have to take on a fair proportion, you feel free.
I mean,
I got time to get a manicure. I got time to get a pedicure.
For real.
Get a massage.
I get time for me that I did not have before. And I'm like, well, more money.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
You do have more money. Let's call it what it is.
Very interesting, right? And it's